Hey everyone, my name is Matthew Ward, and I'm here with my good friend Eric to talk about how Jamf can help your organization gain real-time visibility to macOS event data across your entire fleet. Before we begin, just a little bit of background on ourselves. I'm a senior consulting engineer at Jamf and spent the prior 2 decades managing and securing Apple devices across education, government, and Fortune 500 organizations. Eric?
Awesome. Thanks, Matthew. Hi, everyone. My name is Eric Metzger. I'm a senior sales engineer here at Jamf. But just like Matthew, I've been doing this for about 15 or 20 years. And honestly, truly, I'm a Mac admin at heart. I've been supporting Apple for everything from SMB to enterprise to government. And prior to joining Jamf, I was actually the co-founder of the company responsible for the building blocks of telemetry and Jamf Protect. So I might be a little extra biased about how awesome all this is and what it can really do, but I do truly believe it's a powerful tool for your infrastructure and for your deployment in general that can really bring a lot of added benefit to both security teams and IT teams. So in terms of the agenda today, so first, we'll be touching on what exactly is macOS telemetry, why it's important, and how it gives us unparalleled visibility needed to secure your entire device fleet. Then we'll be jumping into some common use cases and examples, followed by a closer look at what makes telemetry work along with the demo. And finally, we'll have some time for Q&A for anything we covered today or didn't cover. So please feel free to ask anything that you'd like. So let's just jump right in. What is telemetry? So at its core, telemetry is a continuous collection of data from endpoints that helps create a detailed audit trail for both security and IT teams. It also helps organizations satisfy compliance requirements, reconstruct attack timelines, which none of us ever hoped for, but it is a reality of the industry we work in. Uncover stealthy attackers or hidden attacks we may not know about, and manage complex IT deployments. Now, at the end of the day, endpoint telemetry is a continuous collection of data from endpoints. It captures key events such as software usage, system changes, user behaviors, hardware connections, network activity, and a lot more. And really, what it's giving you or telling you is who accesses this device, when, and from where, what changes do they make the system, what software did they run, what processes executed and with what privileges, and what other systems that computer connect to, just to name a few. But as you can see, the whole point is that telemetry just goes on and on and on. It's real-time visibility getting logged and saved to the SIEM or the SOAR of your choice. So you can always go back, whether it's in real time to be proactive or to go back and see what happened. Now, why is telemetry important? So macOS has these amazing frameworks that give us as Jamf and other companies the building blocks to create these amazing tools, but there's not really a built-in mechanism to pull all of this telemetry data together and correlate it into an easily digestible form for both security and IT. Without this telemetry data, you're missing out on relevant log data that captures regulatory logs, activity, and a full history of what happened on the machine. It also makes it more difficult to detect these threats and act quickly to automatically remediate. That automated remediation and then being proactive are really important steps or really important parts of telemetry in general. So you go from being reactive to proactive. And finally, you get actionable insight that gives you deep information into the everything that's happening on your device. Again, I've said this before, but The proactive part versus being reactive makes a huge difference. And finally, telemetry helps fill an important gap in your overall security posture of all your devices and all your fleet. So we've discussed the what. Now let's discuss the why. Why should we use telemetry? So first of all, for compliance audits, a lot of times the information is not only valuable, but it's required depending on what industry you might be working in. Next, if anything happens, you need to have a log showing what happened in real time for investigations. And I said before, but also the ability to hunt threats in real time. Again, being proactive instead of reactive. Because a lot of times, if you're reacting to a problem, it's already too late. And finally, it provides real work IT benefits for monitoring app usage, shadow IT app usage on machines, and allows you, again, I'm going to keep saying this word, but proactively monitor and respond to performance issues and crashes. So it's not just a security tool and security benefit, but there are real world, real benefits for a Mac admin and for an IT admin as well. Now, let's talk about how Jamf does Mac endpoint telemetry. And for that, I'll let my good friend Matthew take over again.
Thanks, Eric. So now that we've set the stage for what telemetry is and why it matters, let's explore more detail and wrap up with the demo. macOS has always had rich security and audit data baked into the OS with audit D and FS events, for example. Process events, authentication logs, system changes, they've always been there. But what's been missing is accessibility and well-structured visibility to that data. There hasn't been a clean, scalable, and real-time way to extract, normalize, and act on that data at scale, and that's where Jamf steps in. Our Mac endpoint telemetry makes this once hidden data stream usable, transforming native system signals into actionable insight, all while preserving the Apple experience users expect. So let's break down what that looks like. I think it's worth acknowledging what security and IT teams have been up against historically. macOS hasn't been treated as a first-class citizen in the enterprise security stack, and with Windows-centric tools dominating traditionally until more recently, as Macs have become more supported, it's often through generic logging or clunky agents that impact performance or user experience. That's led to a lot of pain and limited visibility, siloed tooling, and Macs essentially treated as outliers or blind spots. And that's a problem because attackers don't see Macs that way at all. To them, it's just another entry point. What Jamf does here is remove that blind spot. We make endpoint level macOS data available in a way that integrates cleanly into existing security tooling. This is where Jamf's approach really stands apart. Our telemetry isn't just about pulling data, it's about doing it right for macOS. We're sourcing events directly from Apple's Endpoint Security API, which means the data is accurate, high fidelity, and aligned with how the OS actually works. No kernel extensions, no janky polling scripts. This is telemetry that's native, reliable, and trusted by design. And we don't just pass raw logs through. We enrich that data with context, things like process lineage, code signing status, user associations, so that what lands in your SIEM is immediately useful, actionable, searchable. It's telemetry that plugs into the architecture you already have, whether that's Splunk, Microsoft Sentinel, Elastic, Google SecOps. Elevate your ability to detect, investigate, and respond across your fleet. So let's walk through how this all actually works from event to insight. It starts when something happens on the device. Maybe a user launches an app or runs a command or mounts a volume. Jamf Protect is listening at the system level and captures that event in real time. From there, we enrich it. This isn't just an app was opened and that's it. We attach who opened it, where it came from, whether it was signed, what spawned it, the responsible process, how it fits into the broader activity on the system. That enriched event gets serialized into structured JSON and is streamed out to your SIEM or data lake. Not delayed, not batched, it's in near real time. Once it hits your SIEM, it's mapped and parsed to the correct fields, integrated into existing dashboards and ready for action. Whether it's threat detection, investigation, compliance, or just watching for weirdness, that context-rich data is already where your team works. So from a single user action to a security insight, the pipeline is fast, clean, and tuned for how modern SOCs operate. So shifting into the substance here of what telemetry actually collects. The categories of macOS activity that we're capturing and streaming out to an event collector is pretty detailed. I'm going to try to cover it at a pretty high level or a pretty detailed level here, but you can check out our data model documentation, which goes into really great detail on all of the different events that are collected, gives examples, what the fields all are mapped to, etc. So first up, we've got applications and processes. This tells us exactly what's being run on the system, from signed apps to unauthorized binaries and unmanaged software. With access and authentication, tracks things like logins, sudo commands, and when a user authenticates via password, Touch ID, or Apple Watch. And users and groups gives you full visibility into account creation, privilege elevation, and group membership changes, critical for both investigation and audits. Persistence is where attackers often hide. This category logs any attempt to install a launch daemon, login item, or similar mechanism that helps maintain access for a threat actor. Hardware and volumes, this is where we're taking USB drives, Thunderbolt drives, network volumes, DMG mounts, any removable or network storage really that connects to the machine. And Apple Security captures events from the OS itself. This one's pretty powerful because it's actually taking Apple's security systems themselves, so Gatekeeper, X Protects, anytime there's an override, anytime X Protect Remediator is running, it actually gives you insight to Apple themselves and what they're taking action on, and gives the organization insight to that. The system category focuses on deeper platform level changes. So MDM config profile install, system time changes, loading kernel extensions. Then there's diagnostics and crash reports, giving you insight into app crashes or errors that could point to misconfigurations or even attempted exploitation. And finally, with performance metrics, these help you detect things like cryptojacking, resource spikes, or just poorly behaving software, so you can act before users submit tickets. Every one of these categories is selectable and tunable, so you can collect only what's relevant and push it straight to your SIEM in real time. All right, so let's switch over and take a look at this in action and bring it to life. We'll take a look at a real-world user on a Mac performing actions like creating an account, elevating privileges, installing an app package, and so forth, and see what that correlates to in real time in our security event system. Before we generate any activity, let's take a baseline look at this device's current events. What you're seeing here is a live query in Splunk, filtered to show the last 60 minutes of telemetry for this specific Mac device. Right now it's quiet. No recent sudo commands, no new user accounts, no system level changes. This clean slate helps us illustrate the signals we'll still see after our actions are taken. Let's jump to the device and start generating some real-world events. Now on the device, we're going to take a series of actions that will generate telemetry. First, I create a new local user account and then log into that account, kicking off a chain of system events around user creation, session start, and authentication. After logging into the new user account, I open Terminal and attempt to elevate back to an admin using the SU command. After entering the wrong password a few times, each failed attempt is logged with the method used and the associated user context. Next, I initiate an SSH session to another host on my network, after which I mount a remote SMB network share. That mount triggers both a volume event and corresponding authentication log. Inside the mounted directory is a Google Chrome disk image that I'll also mount over the network. Copy it to my local applications folder and launch it. That sequence generates mount events, network connections, file copy activity, and process execution, all tied together with signing details and parent process lineage. Lastly, I plug in a USB drive and mount an encrypted volume through disk utility. Each step's telemetry events will surface in Splunk almost immediately. Let's take a look. Back in our SIEM, let's rerun a query for this device. We can immediately see a significant increase in event data since our last check. Note there's many other events showing now that might not directly stand out. Things like session lock events or OD user add. Well, that's stemming from the new user creation when a user was added in Discal, as well as when the Mac was locked before I started recording. In this next query, we're broadly looking at all authentication mechanism failures across macOS. By adjusting our query to focus specifically on super user elevation events, we can see each failed event, failed attempt, the user who attempted it, and the terminal session that initiated it. This provides a clear audit trail and an instant insight into authentication patterns. Looking at mount events, we can see the disk image volume with Google Chrome that we mounted from the SMB share, and even the IP address of the network resource. Each piece of data is linked and contextualized, making it easy to trace actions from start to finish. As you can see, there's a ton of event data available ready to be queried on. Be sure to check out the Jamf Protect data model documentation and review all of the event fields and contextualization that's available. And remember, while we're showing this in Splunk, Jamf Protect integrates seamlessly with other SIEMs and security platforms like Microsoft, Elastic, Sumo, and Google SecOps, ensuring that no matter what tools you use, you get the same depth of insight. So that wraps up our demo. Lastly, I'd like to highlight our Jamf Nation Users Conference this year, being held in Denver, Colorado on October 7th through the 9th. Registration is open now, and we'd love for you to join us. Thank you all for coming to our webinar. Now I'll open it up to any questions.